What you saw was the die-in protest of fishing communities led by Pamalakaya in front of the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources against an impending demolition of mussel farms by small fisherfolks in Cavite province. In the Philippines, fishing communities led by Pamalakaya had a die-in protest in front of the Department of the Environment and Natural Resources against the impending demolition of mussel farms by small fisherfolks in Cavite province. Speaking was Beverly Longed of the IPMSDL. Here is a translation of what she said in that video. The role of the Global People's Summit is to tackle the core problem of neoliberal attacks on people's right to food and to produce food. We in the GPS believe that only farmers, not corporations, have the power to genuinely change our food systems. The hungry and marginalized are hungry for change. Ladies and gentlemen, in solidarity with our comrades in Indonesia, let me call on Sylvia Malari, Global Co-Chairperson of the PCFS, to read an excerpt of their statement of condemnation. Sylvia, you have the spotlight.
Thank you, Atama. The People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty condemns in the strongest possible terms the arrest earlier today of 8 Indonesian food activists who were protesting peacefully in front of the presidential palace in Jakarta. They are all members of local farmers groups belonging to PCFS, and their action was part of the GPS, aiming to end the global corporate food empire, which is being organized and is on its third and final night tonight. We call on the government of Indonesia to immediately release the 8 activists detained at the Central Jakarta Police Station, who were exercising their democratic right to protest against the way in which the UN Food Summit has failed to address their concerns. We call on people's movements and civil society organizations, individuals, and institutions struggling for right to food and people's rights to link up in solidarity. Free the Indonesia 8, the Jakarta 8, resist, and the global food empire.
Thank you, Sylvia, for the information, the news which came to us today, that among the arrested was Dismas Simpati, FPR Secretary General, and Kurniawan Sabar, Executive Director of People's Research Group Indies, and Steering Council member of People's Coalition for Food Sovereignty, PCFS Asia. And as of press time, the 8 activists arrested are still detained at the Central Jakarta Police Station. Let us stand in solidarity with them. Let us free Jakarta 8. We demand Jakarta 8 to be freed. I wish to now acknowledge SRED and Tamil Nadu Women's Forum from India through the video that was presented a while ago. Ladies and gentlemen and friends, we now move to the presentation of thematic policy recommendations and action plans. We have 5 minutes for each presentation, and our first presenter represents the fisheries sector. I invite Zoila Bustamante from Confederación Nacional de Pescadores Artesanales from PCFS LAC, Latin America. You have the floor, Zoila.
Buenos días a todos. No puedo accionar el video porque me deshabilitaron. Ya, por lo tanto, estoy sin video. Buenos días, mi nombre es Zoila Bustamante. Para mí es un honor representar a la pesca artesanal dentro de este evento, más aún cuando nosotros somos pescadores de tomo y lomo. Quien le habla es asistente de buzo mariscador, soy de Caleta Estaquilla, ya comuna de Los Muermos, región de los Lagos, Chile. Estamos trabajando en conjunto con los compañeros que hoy me acompañan para hacer ver la realidad de la pesca artesanal a nivel mundial. Nosotros también somos fundadores de la Unión Latinoamericana de la Pesca Artesanal, y quien le habla es presidenta de la Confederación Nacional de Pescadores Artesanales de Chile y presidenta de la ULAPA, de la Unión Latinoamericana de Pescadores Artesanales. Voy a leer un documento que se trabajó
Atama and Zoila, there is no
¿Sí?
English interpretation.
Yo no puedo hablar.
Yes, sí, sí.
Dear friends,
My name is Zoila Bustamante. I have been a fisherman for many years. I am president of the Artisanal Confederation of the Confederation of Artisanal Fisheries in Chile. I live in Caleta Taquilla, which is part of the lake region in Chile. And it's a great honor for me to speak at this event. I am going to try to explain the reality of artisanal fisheries around the world. I'm going to read a document that we worked on a few days ago to try to explain our situation at a regional level and at a global level. It is urgent to make a global effort in order to improve the state of our seas and of fisheries, particularly in those developing countries in the global south. Fishing is vital in order to promote food sovereignty and to face climate change. We must acknowledge that small-scale artisanal fishermen and fisherwomen are still providing food for much of the global south. We must adopt a new framework for fisheries development based on a sustainable approach towards people. We must advance towards a more fair system, and we must defend the rights of people. People must be at the center of all of this and not corporate profits. We demand that those responsible must defend sustainable fishing, providing artisanal fisheries around the globe with further investment, and they must protect the right to access to work, the right to a fair environment, They must defend people's food sovereignty. They must defend national sovereignty. We must improve the cooperation of our sector, and we must abolish the monopoly control that we are suffering in our sector. It is also necessary to cooperate with smaller fishing boats, and we must invest in them and help them so that they can fish in waters that are further away from land than where they are fishing at the moment. We must also respect the rights of fishing workers in communal fishing waters and protect them from the abuses they are suffering at the hands of large business corporations. We must go back to previous large trade agreements and abolish the systems that have been developed in previous years in order to respect people's sovereignty, solidarity, and common profits. Democracy must be at the base of any new food system, and the current situation requires a system that can help small producers in their right to develop new networks. With this document, what we really want to explain is what is happening in our sector. There are some important topics in artisanal fishery at the moment. At the moment, large corporations are receiving money from the government in order to go out with 20, 30 large boats out onto the Chilean coasts, also in Panama, in Ecuador, and completely exploit these waters. And this cannot be allowed. We must respect small fisheries rights. We have always fed the people,
You have 1
particularly
minute
now
left.
during the pandemic. We have fed the people around us, and that must be respected. Help must reach small fisheries. Help must reach those who are feeding the people, farmers, artisanal fisheries, and those investment must stop its flow towards the large corporation. I know we need business, we need markets, we need employment, but we need employment in our favor, not against us.
Pedirles a todos los que están escuchando, ¿ah? No le escuché. Ya, por eso quiero pedirles a todos los que están
That is why I wish to ask everybody who is listening today to take a look at the work that all of us really do, the sustainability of our work, how we can make people continue to survive, but we need real support. No more words, we need action, we need investment. We need investment. The large corporations don't need it. It's the artisanal fisheries who need it. I have salt in my veins. I have been working at sea every single day of my life for years. And I would to say loud and clear that support for large corporations must not make us lose our jobs. But because we support not only fisheries, but also the whole community. Thank you for inviting me here today, and I hope to God that this message reaches the whole world. Thank you. Zoila Bustamante from Artisanal Fisheries.
Gracias, Zoila. We do feel your passion as you are presenting. Gracias once again. Our next thematic policy recommendation and action plan presenter is from conflict-driven hunger and landlessness. I invite Mariam Al-Ja'aja from Arab Group for the Protection of Nature and Arab Network for Food Sovereignty. You have the floor, Mariam.
شكرا جزيلا أتما. كما قلنا أتما سأتحدث حول انعدام الأمن الغذائي في ظل الحرب
I will be speaking about hunger in the context of war, occupation, and sanctions.
أوكي. كما نعلم أن معظم الجياع في العالم يعيش في حالات النزاع
There are many peoples around the world that are living in conflict and war. In addition to embargoes, this leads to a total deterioration of food systems. What we are witnessing today is not only marginalization of this issue in international arenas, but a persistence of such conflict where food in those conflicted areas is used as a weapon. The reason behind that is the need to address the root causes of such practices. Should these international fora wish truly to solve such issues, there is a lack of political intention to address this issue. This is clearly seen as part of the UNFSS. You know, there are many pathways within the United Nations Food Systems Summit, which is the fifth
المشكلة الكبرى في هذا المسار الذي اتخذته الأمم المتحدة أنه يهمش تماما المجتمعات المتأثرة مباشرا من الصراع.
marginalizes people
هناك
who are
أيضا تهميش للمواضيع ذات الضرورة كالنزاعات وحقوق الإنسان وضرورة المصالحة ووقف الاحتلالات وغيرها. والمشكلة الأساسية أن الهيكل التنظيمي لهذا المسار ليس به أي ممثلين عن المجتمعات المتأثرة، ولم يكن هناك أي جهد للتواصل مع هذه المجتمعات، وهذه مشكلة كبيرة. والنتيجة كانت أن هذا المسار الخامس يهمش تماماً الأطر التي عملنا عليها.
Excuse me, Mariam, we are listening to both languages together.
وخرجنا في إطار دولي في روما في CFS اللي هو لجنة الأمن الغذائي العالمي، وهو يسمى إطار العمل حول الأمن الغذائي في ظل الأزمات الممتدة. So what happened was الذي حصل أن الUN شطبت كل الذي قمنا فيه في السنوات السابقة. هل تسمعونني؟
اللغة الإنجليزية والعربية مع بعض.
There is an overlap between both voices. The technical team is
it political coverage by the parties that are the main culprit in causing hunger worldwide. Therefore, many organizations, including organizing entities of the GPS, with the aim to organize an event on people's track to security, genuine development, and just peace. More than 150 organizations attended our event, and we highlighted the voices of the people impacted by conflicts who are usually marginalized in international fora. We heard the experiences from Cuba, Venezuela, Lebanon, Palestine, Uganda, and many others, and we reached very specific outcomes. The main outcomes of which are to put impacted communities at the center of policy design and program implementation, addressing the root causes of conflict, and placing affected communities at the heart of solving these root causes and the definition of peace building. Peace building is now a principle that is void of and among the outcomes is the implementation of the framework for action for food security, nutrition, and contracted crises. I would like to call everyone to look at this framework, which tackles security, the use of food as a weapon, among others. Among the main outcomes as well is to
Mariam, you can quickly conclude.
create national country-owned participatory multi-actor platforms to design and implement food programs and conflict resolution mechanisms, to center food sovereignty and enhance local procurement, to also forge solidarity in and between affected communities, in addition to enhance accountability mechanisms at different levels, in addition to extraterritorial obligations, that is, countries' obligations. These are the main outcomes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Mariam. Friends and colleagues, we are now going to enter a very special break as we cross live to New York with Laura Austria in New York. Laura Austria is at the entrance, I believe, of the United Nations, where right now the UNFSS is being conducted. I'm told that the organizations that are gathering in New York now is ILPS, IWA, and IMA. I wish to give this time to Laura Austria and our comrades there. Over to you in New York.
Hello, thank you. We are live now. Hello. Okay. on this issue. I would like to introduce Raphael. Give it up for Raphael!
Warm and militant greetings of solidarity today to all fighting for food sovereignty for the people of the world. I'm Raphael, and I'm here today representing UNFSS. Food, next to water and shelter, is one of the most basic human needs. Yet, if that is so, how is it that 1% of the world's largest farms control 70% of the farmland? Why is it that in some of the most fertile places on earth, the Caribbean, the Philippines, India, Brazil, there are so many people starving or with lack of access to food? Why is it that in the richest nation in the world, the United States, the poorest people in our cities live in food deserts with no access to healthy food? It is because of imperialism. When we look at Jamaica in the 90s and how the IMF and the World Bank forced them into trade agreements with multinational agribusiness, and it destroyed local farmers' ability to compete and sell their produce next to the cheaper prices of companies like Idaho Potatoes. When we look at Puerto Rico and how today Mayor Monsanto and Syngenta control so much of the land and 85% of their food is imported from the United States. When we look at what NAFTA did to the people of Mexico, and when we look at what the coal plantations are doing in the Philippines, when we look at the murder and displacement of peasant farmers all over the world to make room for these agribusinesses, we know that the problem is U.S. imperialism. The U.S. continues to serve U.S. imperialism at the expense of the poor. It talks about development plans, but development for who? For the 1% of large farm corporations and agribusiness controlling 50%. Development for those living in food deserts, for the peasants who are being killed. This is violence. This is backwards. We must continue to fight to end U.S. imperialism and the development of the rich and the genocide of the poor. We must continue to fight for the people's right to food sovereignty. Thank you very much.
Number one terrorist, U.S. imperialist. Number one terrorist, U.S. imperialist. Thank you, Raphael, for that educated speech.
Hi,
Momo to
Oh, yes.
while you comrades are gathered there, we are now joining you in the GPS, and we have all our comrades here all over the world watching you and standing with you in spirit and in solidarity. Could you address the GPS plenary? There are hundreds of us here. Please, words of solidarity with GPS plenary right now.
Was made the deadliest country for land and environmental pressure in the Asian continent. According to a 2018 Manila Public the Oakland Institute on the Growing Culture. Since Duterte came to power, there have been over 280 documented killings of peasants, farm workers, and fisher folk related to land dispute cases and advocacy for agrarian reform, including 87 peasants since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. As of September 15, the International Criminal Court has authorized an investigation into the subculture and highlighted the need for the United Nations Human Rights Council to take stronger action against violence and impunity under President Rodrigo Duterte. This is the system that keeps our peasants in poverty. Our people are forced into debt as landowners, and foreign companies steal the fruits of their labor. They are exposed to terrible conditions, abuse, from heat exhaustion to poison from pesticides. Women peasants are especially vulnerable under these conditions. They are going to do double the work as they do
Yes, so friends in the GPS plenary, we are receiving this kind of audio because it is very windy in New York and it affects the device that is recording and filming our friends who are at the United Nations or First Avenue, at the corner of First Avenue. Regardless, we are there and we are with them in solidarity. So thank you very much, Laura, Austria, and our friends there in New York. We will now return back to our plenary here and continue where we left off a while ago at the segment for presentation of thematic policy recommendations and action plan. So from Mariam, let's now move to agrochemicals and seeds, presented by Stop Golden Rice Network. We invite the presenter for agrochemicals and seeds.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Alfie from the Stop Golden Rice Network Asia. So I'm just going to share with you the Unity node that was drafted during the webinar that was held last September 2021 with the Stop Golden Rice Network, a growing culture and PCFS. So the demand, the people's demand, the title is Kick Out Corporations Out of Food and Agriculture. As such, small farmers, food producers, consumer scientists, rural residents, and sectoral groups across Asia and the world are saying that to have a truly transformative food system, these demands should be met. So number one is that Bill Gates hands off our plates and the corporate control of food systems. We demand accountability for the irreparable damages and injuries that big capitalists like Bill Gates have inflicted upon the people's lives, livelihoods, and the planet. We demand the dismantling of Gates-supported institutions such as the Consultative Group of International Agriculture Research, or CGIAR, and the International Rice Research Institute, or IRI, which are tools to intensify the corporate monopoly control over seeds and other agricultural resources and to impoverish the farmers. IRI is also accountable for the disappearance of local land races and associated knowledge, for farmers' indebtedness and misery, and for the devastation of our agricultural farms through its Green Revolution program. The needs and aspirations of small farmers should be front and center of public policies and programs in food and agriculture in order to build an agricultural system that is truly by and for the small farmers, that respects their rights to form organizations and to join and support institutions that advance their interests, that upholds farmers' rights to defend themselves against threats to their lives and livelihoods, and that protects them from false information, harassment, and intimidation, and unfair practices. Number two, forward just, sustainable, and farmer-centered food systems. We demand that farmers' rights to resources such as seeds, land, and knowledge be protected for them to be able to produce food for the people. We demand recognition of their enormous contributions to food security and development. We demand that farmers own the land that they till, to have access to appropriate technologies that are simple, practical, and do not harm the environment, to be given a fair and just price for their products, to have control over the production and all its benefits, and to enjoy a healthy and balanced ecology and agrobiodiversity. We demand that farmers be able to freely exchange, use, multiply, and improve their seeds and other genetic resources. Local crop diversity, along with the inherent knowledge and wisdom of farmers, must be protected from biopiracy, decontamination by genetically modified and gene-edited crops, and biopatenting. The last will be forward people's food sovereignty. We demand that public policies on food and agriculture prioritize the right of the people to food and their sovereign right to produce food that is culturally acceptable and grown in an ecological and sustainable manner. Rights-based, comprehensive, and community-led solutions to food production must be forwarded. The people's right to safe, sufficient, nutritious, diverse, and culturally appropriate food must be met at all times, especially during times of disasters such as the ongoing pandemic. Corporate technofixes to address hunger and malnutrition, such as those being peddled by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that continue to push the industrialization of food and farming should be scrapped. Likewise, neoliberal policies to food and agriculture must be stopped and reversed by ending the World Trade Organization and its agreements, as well as other free trade and investment deals, and by relocalizing our food system. So the Stop Golden Rice Network shares its call. We are hungry for change, and we would just like to share the also call of our farmers from the Philippines, wherein our farmers are saying that they are ready to do action, direct action, should the need arises to stop the entry of golden rice. So we, the Stop Golden Rice Network is in solidarity with the peoples of the world for a just, sustainable, equitable, and healthy food system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our colleague. Speaking on agrochemical and seeds from Stop Golden Rice Network. This session is thematic policy recommendations and action plan. And for the next presentation, I'd like to invite Lei Covero from Ibon International on sustainable consumption and production. Lei. Lei, please join us. Thank you.
In 6 days, in June and July of this year, to all
about
colleagues
40
and
civil
comrades from
society
different parts of the
organizations and
world.
people's organizations
In 6
from
days,
movements in
June and
about
July
10
of this
countries
year,
in Asia and
about
Africa
40 civil society
gathered together to
organizations and
discuss
people's
about the state
organizations
on sustainable
from
consumption
movements
and
in about
production
10
in
countries
Asia
in
and
Asia
Africa,
and Africa,
the centrality
gathered
of
together to
people's
discuss
rights and
about the
sovereignty
state
in
on
advancing
sustainable
people-powered,
consumption and production in
sustainable
Asia
consumption
and
and
Africa,
production,
the centrality of
and
people's
ways
rights and
of moving
sovereignty
forward.
in advancing
Since
people-powered,
2020 and
sustainable
until
consumption
today,
and production,
we are witness to how the
and
COVID-19
ways of
pandemic
moving forward.
further laid bare the
Since
unsustainability
2020
and
and until
unjustness
today,
of the
we are
neoliberal
witness to how the
global
COVID-19
consumption and
pandemic
production system
further
that
laid
continues to
bare
lay
the
waste to
unsustainability and
ecosystems,
unjustness of the
privatize public
neoliberal
services such as
global
health,
consumption
water,
and
and
production
education,
that
depress
continues to
workers'
lay
wages,
waste to
and deprives them
ecosystems,
of social
privatize
protection,
public services
forces
such as
people to
health,
give up
water, and
self-sufficiency,
education,
and prevents them from
depress workers'
exercising their
wages, and
democratic
deprives them of
rights,
social
all in
protection,
the name
forces
of
people to
economic
give up
growth that
self-sufficiency,
amasses huge
and
profits
prevents
for
them
an
from
elite few
exercising
while
their democratic
impoverishing
rights,
millions.
all in the name
SCP,
of
as
economic
promoted
growth
by the
that
United
amasses
Nations
huge
under
profits for an elite
SDG 12,
few while
or Responsible
impoverishing
Consumption and
millions.
Production, presents
SCP, as
environmental
promoted by the United
sustainability
Nations
as a
under
mere
SDG 12,
resource-efficient
or
version of the
responsible
status
consumption
quo.
and production,
It misses the
presents
crucial point
environmental
that unsustainable
sustainability
production
as
and
a mere
consumption are
resource-efficient
symptoms
version
of
of the
systemic
status quo.
structural
It
barriers
misses the crucial
that rest
point
on the
that
social,
unsustainable production
cultural,
and consumption
political, and
are
economic makeup
symptoms
of
of systemic
societies.
structural barriers
For SCP
that
to be
rest on
truly
the social,
transformative,
cultural,
four important
political, and
elements are
economic
present
makeup of
where
societies.
assertion of rights and
For
sovereignty are
SCP to be
central.
truly transformative,
First, people's
four
rights are
important
protected and
elements are
advanced
present
or
where
fought
assertion
for.
of rights and
Two,
sovereignty
self-sufficiency
are
and
central.
self-reliance is
First,
promoted and
people's
advanced
rights are protected
through
and
assertion of
advanced
people's
or fought
sovereignty
for.
or people's power.
Two, self-sufficiency
Three,
and self-reliance
social
is
innovation and
promoted and
community-based
advanced
action is
through assertion
supported.
of people's sovereignty or people's power. Three, social innovation and community-based action is supported, encouraged, and advanced. And four, the accountability of governments and corporations are demanded by the people. These elements are seen in people-powered sustainable practices of the indigenous peoples and rural sectors in the Philippines, Indonesia, and Uganda, practicing collective farming using agroecological methods, the Million Tree Campaign in Palestine, the sustainable fishing practice in Zambia, and traditional beekeeping practice in Kenya. All these sustainable practices are not just beneficial to the people, environment, and economy, but more importantly, these are assertions of people's collective rights and power made amid a backdrop of growing militarism, repression of people's rights, and multiple crises on the economic, health, and climate fronts. In the discussions with Africa and Asia colleagues, general policy recommendations were as 1. Genuine land reform and realization in poor developing countries. 2. Urgent policy reforms against unjust, unequal colonial trade relations, onerous debt, and anti-people economic policies. 3. Upholding of human rights-based framework and approach. 4. Government development. 5. People's participation in governance and policy making. 6. Community-based researches, practices, trainings, and technology should be supported and made available. 7. Focus on local food production of food staples involving local grassroots-based food producers should be emphasized. And 8. Government-initiated and funded projects on SCP should be focused on involving the people. And so, we call on everybody to resist and forge ahead, fight for people-powered, fight for equitable distribution of land and food sovereignty, hold government neoliberalism.
Thank you, Atama. I'm Anja Limbeck, tuning in from Denmark. I represent Local Futures, an international organization that is focused on promoting a shift away from corporate globalization and neoliberal policy towards economic localization and direct democracy. Can you hear and see me okay? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Please
Thank
continue.
you. Thank
Yes.
you. Yes. I'll be screen sharing in a moment. We see the central issue here as the industrialization of the production and the centralization and globalization of our food systems. And what we see is that this kind of central mechanisms, the neoliberal policies that enable this are, as we see it, the so-called free trade treaties, the subsidies, and the regulations that are all skewed in favor of the big and the global and marginalizing the small and the local. And this is what I'll be talking about now. And can you enable my screen sharing, please? Yes, thank you. Pardon me. Can you see?
Yes,
Yeah?
Anja.
Yes. So our policies recommendation focuses on, to start with, the need to renegotiate trade agreements to enable countries basically to protect their own resources, labor, and markets from corporate predation, meaning that we need to put the health and well-being of people and planet before that of trade. And part of that, very importantly, would be to eliminate investor-state dispute settlements clauses from trade agreements, which currently, as you know, enable corporations around the world to sue governments every time they do something to try to protect the environment or people. This is becoming an increasingly common feature, and it's all happening behind closed doors. I'm having trouble here. Another thing we think that is very important is the need to end subsidies to fossil fuels. Currently, or at least in 2015, IMF had the figure of $5.3 trillion were given in subsidies in just 1 year to fossil fuel corporations. Same thing with the subsidies that goes to global and long distance trade-based infrastructures. Huge amount of billions of dollars go into that as well. And what we need to do is to support sustainable and ethical infrastructure for local trade and regional trade. Of course, like Soile was saying earlier, it's not that we want to stop trade, but we can't have all the support going basically to corporations that undermine our food sovereignty and destroy our planet. I'm having trouble here. We also recommend that the support in terms of subsidies and efforts go to support human labor instead of technology. Currently, what we are seeing huge, for example, tax redemptions to companies, technological companies, and in many places, a huge tax burden on labor. And also a shift in funding, R&D funding towards agroecology and human scale diversified farming. And I think it was Miriam that was also talking about that we need to shift public procurement policy in support of local and sustainable food is one of the quickest ways that we can strengthen local food system and healthy farming and get healthy food to our citizens around the world. And we also need, obviously, to have a shift in agricultural subsidies in support of human-scale sustainable farming, small and medium-scale farmers. And this is going a bit crazy here. Currently, we are handing out something like $1 million in global subsidies to industrial farming per minute, and apparently only 1% of that goes to what we could call environmental friendly farming and basically small scale producers around the world. And I'm sorry.
Hi, Anya. Respectfully,
Yeah.
your time is up. Maybe you can quickly.
I can quickly, thank you. So we are proposing a campaign on insane trade. By that we mean a redundant trade, simultaneous import and export of identical food products, shipping food to be processed abroad and back again, importing food from abroad that can be produced successfully at home, and focusing agriculture production on export while failing to produce for domestic needs. And if any one of you are interested in taking part in such a campaign that would be co-created together, please write to us at Local Futures, to me in particular, where Local Futures has experience with doing this previously and had good success with reaching out to a cross sector of movements, including climate movements and other environmental movements, social justice groups. And we think it's an opportunity to get in, to get out with this message, both in rural and urban communities around the world, global north, global south. Thank you so much. Sorry, I had trouble with my tech here.
Thank you very much, Anya Lingback from Local Futures, joining us all the way from Denmark. We realize, friends, that our challenges in today is actually with the technology, because some of us are coming in with poor internet access or strong internet access as well. So I really appreciate everyone's calmness and understanding of our technical situation. But do join me in thanking all of our speakers for presenting the thematic policy recommendation and action plans. I'd like to introduce you now to a cultural presentation by International Migrants Alliance, a body movement performance.
Aku rakyat, sebut namaku petani, menanam sayur, jagung, juga padi. Aku petani, menopang hidup di sebuah negeri. Nyatanya nasibku sungguh ironis di negara yang katanya agraris. Bukan lagi hama yang membunuh tanamanku, namun pabrik, gedung para tuan, dan tuan yang punya kursi dan berdasi. Lahanku semakin sempit, lapar semakin mencekik. Aku tak cukup uang untuk membeli pupuk, bukan benih. Sedang panenku tak mampu mengenyangkan. Menjual tanah atau mati, pilihanku ya mati. Mati di tanah yang katanya tanah surga. hak dan upahku dirampas, memaksaku mencari hidup di negeri orang hanya untuk sesuap harapan. Nyatanya menjadi buruh migran pun bukan sebuah kemenangan. Penguasa rakus terus memerat keringatku, membunuh perlahan melalui aturan-aturan yang diciptakan. Aku hidup miskin dan kelaparan oleh penguasa. Ya, aku miskin, aku lapar, kemudian aku mati. Siapa bilang menjadi puasa itu kaya dan susah? Orang-orang miskin itu bodoh, tak mampu melihat celah. Lihat di kehidupanku, aku yang begitu mewah, putar-otak, main gertak, tak perlu bekerja keras dan lelah. Tinggal tunjuk apa yang gue mau. Aku raksasa, tanpa banyak bicara aku berkuasa. Hutan, sawah, dan lahan, tinggal tunjuk, aku menelan semua. Kami miskin, bodoh. Aku bisa memanipulasi apa yang tak bisa aku beli. Apa yang tak bisa aku beli di negeri ini? Jangankan berbola, rakyat, senjataku akan menghadangmu dan kamu akan mati. Semua akan kukuasai tanpa kecuali. Lalu sebut aku oligarki. Aku akan mengerukmu hingga dasar bumi sampai mati. Aku petani. Jika aku mati, matilah negeri ini.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much to International Migrants Alliance for that story in form of body movement. Well done, friends. Amazing, amazing. Let's now proceed with the third segment, which is the presentation of regional policy recommendation and action plans. We have 3 regional presentations here, but friends, before that, let's be mindful of the time, and for that we wish to remind our presenters that you have 5 minutes each. Let's proceed with Asia region and invite Azra Said from Asia Pacific Research Network. Over to you, Azra.
From national summits in Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Japan, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, and that's it.
You are muted, Wali. Kindly unmute yourself. Thank you.
I'm not muted. Am I muted? Katama, this is Azra. I'm not muted. Can you hear me? In preparation for the summit, September 21st, national summits have been conducted to ensure that the voices of the marginalized are at the helm of the activities and not just at the table. Grassroots organizations from Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Japan, Pakistan, Philippines, and Sri Lanka led the national summits to tackle the issues surrounding the food systems in specific countries and to present their action plans for a just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. From Cambodia, the Cambodian Youth Network, Coalition of Cambodian Farmers, Democratic Association of Informal Economy, Cambodia's Independent Civil Servant Association, Panlok Khamir, Non-Timber Forest Products, Onlyo Ne De Sankam, Sa Makum, Tang Not, and People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty Asia organized the National People's Summit on Food Systems in Cambodia on July 26th, where smallholder farmers, indigenous peoples, teachers, youth, informal workers from all over the country participated in the virtual event. In India, APVVU, the Asian Peasant Coalition, Pesticides Action Network, Asia Pacific, and Pan India organized the National Summit in India entitled Indian Food Systems, Distributive Justice and Access to Natural Resources and Food. It was a 2-part webinar that was conducted on July 5th and then July 29th of this year. The 2-day event discussed the various challenges on food sovereignty in India, including the corporatization of Indian agriculture, monopolies in food production, and the unsustainability of the food and agriculture systems in India. In Indonesia, the Institute for National and Democracy Studies, INDES, led the National Summit on Food Systems in Indonesia on July 18th, where the discussion focused on the food and climate crisis amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The participants recognized that the root cause of these crises that result to further hunger and poverty of the rural people are land grabbing by foreign corporations, underdeveloped and semi-feudal agriculture systems, and neocolonialism that are ignored at the UN Food Systems Summit. The Union of Japan organized the in-person event titled Another Citizens Food Summit. The Green Food System Strategy proposed by the Ministry of Agriculture on September 18th in Tokyo, Japan. The summit in Japan tackled the current situation of corporate domination of food on a global scale, true aim of Japan's Green Food System Strategy, and think about food and agriculture that the people want. In Pakistan, the Pakistan Kisan Mazdoor Tehreek and Roots for Equity organized the National Summit on August 12th. It was actually just yesterday, on September 22nd, entitled Corporate Agriculture Sector. I'm sorry, excuse me, let me start again. In Pakistan, the Pakistan Kisan Mazdoor Tehreek and Roots for Equity organized the National Summit in Pakistan on August 12th, entitled Corporate Agriculture Sector, Robbing Farmers' Livelihood. The virtual event featured Dr. Azra Saeed, Roop Kamal, and women farmers PKMT, Ayman from Pakistan, from Roots for Equity, and PKMT member Mohammad Aslam, to talk about the corporate capture of the food systems in Pakistan, especially genetic resources and exploitation of women farmers. I would like to add that in Pakistan, we also had the National Food Summit just yesterday on August 22nd, and it was attended by more
Azra,
than 50
respectfully,
small
you have
farmers.
1 minute.
Okay. So in Philippines, the theme was Land to the Tiller, Food for All. The Agroecology X Network organized the National People's Food Summit, and it took place on August 30th and 31st, and then 11th and 12th of September in the Philippines. Several organizations under Agroecology X Network took part in the summit by holding various online events and activities. In addition, there were Facebook, social media actions happening. PANAP and Global People Summit also were participating organizations. In Sri Lanka, the National Fisheries Solidarity Movement, NAFSO, with Pan Asia Pacific, held a virtual forum with farmers and talked about the people's struggle for food and survival amid COVID-19. The virtual event in Sri Lanka was attended by almost 100 people. Then we have an action plan where we have many demands, and given that we don't have the time, I don't think I can read it all, but just the 3 main points. There were action plans on implementing genuine agrarian reform and on stopping the liberalization and foreign domination in agriculture, and also for food systems transformation, fund food production and support farmers markets. We will be sending this report in as well. It's very long and it's not possible to read it further. Thank you very much, Fatama.
Thank you very much. From Asia region with Azra. Let's go to Latin America and Caribbean region with Cristina Hernandez from CONAPACH. Over to you, Cristina.
thank you everyone for giving us this opportunity this evening. As already mentioned, I'm Hakim Valiraine, a small-scale farmer. I'm based in Uganda, and I come from an organization called Eastern Southern Africa Small-Scale Farmers Forum, the biggest network of small-scale farmers in Uganda, and we are having membership in 16 countries of Eastern Southern Africa, and I'm also the chairperson of these 16 countries in Eastern Southern Africa. Today, I'm presenting on behalf of Africa, and our theme or slogan that day was that farmers, not corporations, feed Africa. And this was a regional concentration because for Global People's Summit on Food System held on 21st, and it was at that time. The organizers were the People's Coalition of Food Sovereignty Africa. We had International League of People's Struggle Africa, and then Ibon International. The objective of this consultation was to learn from the current neoliberal food system and capitalistic economic models affecting the region. Second one was promote a just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food system as an alternative against the capitalist and profit-oriented food systems. And the third one was to highlight ecological and indigenous food systems that truly address poverty and restore the rights of historically excluded sectors. The fourth was to share alternatives and good practices in addressing caused by the renewable food systems. And we had participants. These were, when you look at the number, they are few, but they are representing big organizations. So they were in the representation of big organizations. Their constituency, like ESAF in 16 countries, ZAMSOF in the whole, then Togo, Kenya, then Luxembourg and the Philippines. Some of the recommendations which we had, one of them was that laws and policies strengthening intellectual property rights of farmers on seeds to livestock. We wanted those laws to be instituted and strengthened, though they exist, but we want them to be strengthened. And then promotion of agroecology and its subset and drawing up practices already being carried out by farmers. You know very well that we've been practicing quite a lot of innovative agriculture, culturally, traditionally, which is being called agroecology, but it is not documented. That's why it is being eroded by the corporations. The third one was a special program on food system for farmers who promote ecological, healthier culture and food production system. And the fourth was coordination on key policies, including livestock, crop production, and other relevant to food production. Then the other one was awareness and strengthening of farmers' rights in biodiversity protection. You know, we've lost quite a lot of crops, animals in the indigenous, and even the natural resources have gone. So we need the protection in that we are the people who are in charge, especially the food producers. Policies on water control and promotion of aquaculture programs, including capacity building. You know, there is a lot of politics on the use of water and how it's supposed to be used. And so we need a
Hakim, you have 1 minute.
Good, I will have finished. Study the agenda of 2063 and the agenda 2030 and the Green Recovery Action Plan, which is linked to corporate agriculture. And the coordinated campaign and actions are one, that the impacts of COVID-19 on the food system. We want actions there and we need to be worked upon. Then climate change and food systems. If you talk about climate change, you know what it takes to have a sustainable food system. Then influence existing policies such as the Malawi Declaration. You know, this one was started in 2003 as Maputo Declaration. Then later in 2014 as increased the transformation of the food system in Africa. And in my conclusion, so we have seen now with COVID that it would be very interesting to retolerate diets, to stop eating things that come from other sides of the world, and actually start eating local foods in a season that will be healthy, hopefully not contaminated. This is a call for a just, equitable, healthy and sustainable food system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Hakim from Africa. And now we return to Latin America and Caribbean. And to help us contact our presenter, can I invite our interpreter to call and inform our speaker, please? Thank you, Mr. Interpreter.
I hope he's bringing some food. Darling, how much did you earn today? We need to buy something for lunch.
Just enough to, maybe, buy 1 kilo of rice and a can of sardines.
Hi, when we had our own land, we ate a lot better. We grew our own rice and we planted vegetables. We're never hungry. I still can't believe they took away our land. They're killing us.
Don't worry, darling. We workers are organizing ourselves. One day, we will take our land back.
Just 90 for eggplants, 50 for okra.
Oh my god. This is so expensive.
I know, right? To think we're in a pandemic and people don't have jobs and money for food.
Didn't the government say that this would be cheaper if we import food?
Does this look cheaper to you? It's not that I'm happy selling imported vegetables. Importation kills the livelihood of our local farmers.
Maybe I'll just go to the supermarket. It's even more expensive here. It's all processed or imported.
The government just imposed a new lockdown.
Oh no! Again? How will we bring our produce to the town market?
It's okay. We have survived this before. At least we have something to eat and share among ourselves. And we don't need to buy seeds and chemical inputs.
You are right. I just wish that other people have access to our produce as well. We all have to eat healthy nowadays.
By the way, do you have some vegetable seeds left? I'll exchange some of mine.
Sure. These seeds here are extremely climate resilient.
And corporate control of food and agriculture.
Break the chains.
Food sovereignty now.
Number 2, upholding rural people's rights to land, production, and resources. Number 3, promoting people's agroecology and sustainability in production, distribution, and consumption. And number 4, putting people's food sovereignty and democracy at the core of food and agriculture policies. Let us hear the action plans for each of them. And I invite now 4 speakers to tell us and share with us action planning on those pillars for transformation. The first will be from PCFS about people's food sovereignty. Sorry, I invite Julie Smith. Julie.
Hi, Atama, nice to hear you. Yeah, I'll try and share something from our workshop just yesterday when we when we had a discussion about asserting food sovereignty and transforming the food systems. You're sharing my screen for me. That's good. I thought actually I was going to screen share myself, but that's okay. So just to, yeah, so I was a little bit confused by that, but no problems. Can everybody, I think, yeah, okay. So I've got the camera on now as well. And if I understand correctly, you're screen sharing for me. Hello? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Julie Smith.
Okay. So just a little confusion because I thought I was going to screen share, but it's fine. It's the same thing more or less. So
all right.
I'll just go through the notes and you can adapt to the text. So yeah, we at our webinar yesterday on asserting food sovereignty and transforming food systems, this was one of the side events of the Global People's Summit on food sovereignty, on food systems. And this highlighted and revisited the basic principles of food sovereignty and how it challenges the corporate agenda in the United Nations Food Systems Summit. Moreover, it showed through stories from the ground the real struggles and gains of communities asserting food sovereignty against corporate domination over agriculture. And we had 245 participants from 73 countries. And actually, at the end of our webinar, we got together to develop some recommendations on how food sovereignty can be further advanced through people's campaigns. And so I'll share these various recommendations with you quickly. So the first one was with regard to the climate change. We realized the need to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that are being emitted and the need we have to convince our governments to adopt the most technically advanced policies and measures, and especially to underline the central importance of agroecology in the fight against climate change. And with regard to food sovereignty campaigning, it was said that PCFS must try to link up with people at the local level who are actually working on the ground to thwart the reliance of countries on corporations and to prevent these corporations from taking away farmers' rights to land, dictating what crops should be cultivated and what consumers can buy. And these also the systematic attacks of corporate agriculture on people's culture needs to be emphasized. So to continue the experience of the indigenous peoples and the Lakota struggle in defense of their right to water, it was stressed that there is a need for discussion and action on planning for peacemaking and reconciliation with Mother Earth, the land, the water, and especially for the struggle for food sovereignty. Fourthly, there was a need for more education and more mobilization campaigns by the peasant organizations and for PCFS to advance the food sovereignty struggle. for example, by establishing local seed centres, promoting the practice of agroecology. And ultimately, food sovereignty needs to be related to scientific socialism. A fifth recommendation was that we should advocate for the revision of land use policies, especially in the cities, to allow for regenerative agricultural practices as a basis for urban ecological regeneration. Furthermore, we need to expose and oppose the food and agricultural seeds conglomerates and institutions such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which are tools for the corporatization of agriculture and development. At the same time, we need to call out the UN Food and Agriculture Organization for its partnership with pesticide monopoly companies and corporations. We need to promote community-based agricultural knowledge banks to sow the seeds of multi-generational knowledge transfer and pursue more collective farming in order to strengthen unity. We also need to support the continuous struggle for agrarian reform for landless farmers, and especially support the struggle for rural women's ownership and control of the land that they till. We need to work to support farm workers and to defend their rights, because they are the largest and lowest paid workforce in the farming and food sectors in many countries. We need to focus on and expose the commodity traders who profit from the labor and steal the wealth of farmers. These would be traders and companies such as ADM.
Respectfully, Julie, you have 1 minute left.
And we need finally to form cooperatives and land trusts and encourage the building of community farming models to promote sustainable and ecological farming practices. So that very quickly was the summary of what came out of yesterday's thinking at our webinar on what could be good resolutions for moving forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much too, Julie from PCFS. That was the pillar on people's food sovereignty. Thank you also to everyone who joined the side events to contribute into making these recommendations very glaring and very strong. Let's now move on to recommendations from community-led agroecology. I give this time to friends from Stop Golden Rice Network. Please take it away. We are ready to hear from community-led agri. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. So please take it away.
That was a great news, no? The release of our 8 comrades that were arrested this morning. That's good news. Thank you for that. This is the side event of the Global People's Summit that was that transpired yesterday. No? This is transforming the food system through people-led agroecology. This event was co-organized by Masipag together with the Pesticide Action Network Asia Pacific and the Pesticide Action Network North America. Webinar entitled Transforming Food System Through People-Led Agroecology aims to reaffirm the basic principles of agroecology from the perspective of small food producers and rural communities. Number 2, provide updates on key global discussions related to agroecology and to identify challenges and potential areas of advocacy or campaigning. Highlight inspiring stories and best practices by communities advancing
Chris, you may turn on your video.
Okay. I'm shifting to number 3, the third objective is to highlight inspiring stories and best practices. And number 4, propose initial action plans for food systems transformation through the lens of agroecology practitioners and advocates as a contribution to the GPS. The virtual event was facilitated by the Executive Director of PANAC, Sarojeni Rengam, and the speakers were Dr. Tito Medina of Masipag and Marsha Ishi of PANAC. Meanwhile, Jayakumar Chelaton of Tanay from India and Nasira Habib of Hodge from Pakistan were also invited to share their best practices of agroecology. Dr. Medina led the discussion in defining people-led agroecology and the importance of movement building. He laid out 5 levels in how to transform the current food system through people-led agroecology. Level 1, organize farmers to act. Level 2, develop alternative practices to industrial or conventional inputs and methods. Level 3, the redesigning of the agroecosystem on the basis of ecological processes. Level 4, establish direct connection between farmers and consumers. For example, farmers and local markets, solidarity markets, community-supported agriculture, etc. And level 5, movement. Assert an alternative global food system based on equity, participation, democracy, and justice that is not only sustainable but helps restore and protects Earth's support system. Meanwhile, Marsha Ishi of PANA presented key international policy updates on agroecology. At the local level, she shared that a municipality in Valencia, Spain, developed an innovative democratic food council that has brought together farmers, consumers, schools, researchers, public administrators, and private sector. At the provincial level, the Ministry of Family, Agriculture in Misiones, Argentina is supporting the food sovereignty objectives of its 30,000 farm families. And over the years, the local government has enacted a series of laws and initiatives that are agroecological focus, such as the 2014 Law for the Promotion of Agroecological Production. At the national level, Mexico has embarked on nationwide transition plan for agricultural production that aims to transform their food system that is based in agroecology, good health, food sovereignty,
we're trying to see her office number because she said to try calling her office number.
And at the regional level, the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, has launched an initiative across all the 15
Respectfully,
countries.
Chris, you have 1 minute left.
Yes, and West Africa. No? The action plans are the following: stop the toxic alliance between Food and Agricultural Organization and CropLife, challenge multi-stakeholderism at the CFS and in all UN spaces, reject the corporatist UN Food System Summit and its outputs such as Science Policy Interface, support Pesticide Action Network resolutions to phase out highly hazardous pesticides and support of agroecology, advance agroecology goals in the UN Convention on Biodiversity, demand agroecology solutions at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, monitor the discussion on science policies at the international level, keep building agroecology solutions at local, provincial, national, and regional levels, building coalitions and movement, organize and empower farmers, develop strong links between sympathetic allies within the academic and scientific communities, reach out to academics and scientists, reach out and influence policymakers, provide sustainable rural livelihood as income source of mobilizing youth consumers for agroecology. And lastly, international solidarity for farmers, indigenous people, workers, peasants against agri-chemical corporations. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Now let's smoothly go to the next presentation from Pakistan, Kisar Masdor Tariq, Roots for Equality regarding safe, adequate, healthy, and nutritious food. I call upon Kisar Masdor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. EKMT has launched a campaign.
Can we have him unmuted, please? Thank you.
In Pakistan.
Or rather, can you unmute yourself first?
Corporations out of food and agriculture. We want small and landless farmers to be in control of our food production. Stop use pesticide and fertilizer. We launched the campaign on July 1st, 2021. We have held webinars on various issues that promote agroecology, on women farmers, and promoting seed bank. Up till now, we have released 80 video messages and 20 more will be released by the end of the campaign on social media. The messages have focused on various issues around safe and nutritious food. We have reached more than 3,000 people in Pakistan and across the world. Our movement has gained strength from his campaign, from this campaign, which will end on October 16, 2021 by marking the World Hunger Day. We are proud to be part of the GPS. Down with corporate control in food and agriculture. Long live people's solidarity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Safe, adequate, healthy, and nutritious food. I acknowledge Mr. Raja Mujib from PKMT. Thank you, sir. Our next presenter from Asia Peasants Coalition regarding pheasants' right to land and resources. Over to you, Wali Haidar.
Thank you, Atama. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can, sir. Please go ahead.
Thanks. The Asian Peasant Coalition, in partnership with Pesticide Action Network, No Land, No Life campaign, brings back its Peasant Rise Up webinar series to bring forth the voices of the rural people. The series, hosted by Bobby of Citizen News Service and Christiana, tackle endless corporate control of agriculture, human rights, and other issues currently faced by peasantry across Asia. The Peasant Rise Up series is part of Global People Summit for a just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. It serves as a venue to celebrate the steadfast and growing peasant movement and its success in the recent years. Additionally, the webinar series is an opportunity to further highlight the call for genuine agrarian reform and for land to the tiller as indispensable component of a truly radical transformation of the global food systems. The 2021 Peasant Rise Up webinar series comprised of 6 episodes was broadcasted from April 28 to July 21st, 2021 on Asian Peasant Coalition Facebook and YouTube channel, and on also the Facebook pages of the PANAP and features organizations. The pilot episode focused on the sugar plantation in Sri Lanka. The chairperson of the women organization in Mongolia and Colombo-based researcher and activist Aromi Pereira discussed about the land grabbing and sugarcane companies in Sri Lanka. The second episode was focused on Indonesia with Saruni and Yudin Masi of Agra. Sulawesi speaking on the working conditions of the rural women on palm oil plantation in Reno province and land grabbing in central Sulawesi. The third episode features the pasteurization law in Pakistan that would make the selling of fresh and raw milk criminal offense. Dr. Azra Tala Saeed, the executive director of Roots for Equity, and Ayman Baba, the young researcher from Roots for Equity, talked about the World Trade Organization's agreements and compel their government to pass such laws. Meanwhile, Muhammad Aslam, a farmer from Sahiwal and also the member of Pakistan Kisan Mazdoor Tehreek, talked the pasteurization laws' impact on farmers on their livelihood. The fourth episode focused on Philippines, highlighting the Duterte administration's Build, and Build project that resulted to land grabbing, displacement of farmers and harassment of state agents on farmers' leader and peasant advocates. The series invited the chairpersons of Aguman, Tarang, AMCL, I'm sorry for the wrong pronunciation if I made, Arnold, the campaign officer of the AMGL-NE, to share their experiences. AMGNE and AMCL are both regional chapters of Peasant Movement of Philippines. The last country to be featured in is Thailand. Guest speaker Surapon from Southern Peasant Federation of Thailand on the issue of alternative land management effort, and peasant member of the Southern Peasant Federation of Thailand. They have also shared the threats and challenges peasant in Southern Thailand face in their
Respectfully,
struggle
Wali, you have
for
1
food
minute
system
left.
reforms. Okay, Atama, I'll try to finish in 1 minute. The action plans out of this series of web broadcasts are implement a genuine agrarian reform where those who till and enrich the land and food production have effective control and ownership over land and over agriculture resources. Resist the land grabbing and fight off displacement that pushes them to reallocate away from their livelihood. Resist and the so-called development projects and infrastructure programs that make away the land and livelihood of farmer and food producer. Junk new liberal laws on agriculture and forces farmer to lower the price of their rice and other produce due to the influx of imported products from different neighboring countries. Discuss decision-making process related to agriculture sector, irrigation, on which a variety of the crops should be planted, must include community participation. Stop the harassment, threats, and political persecution on farmer leader and farmers' communities. Also drop the charges filed against farmers and advocates. Remove livelihood control and limitation placed over land, thus allowing farmer to cultivate their own food. Recognize women as primary producers and identify their connection and land and resources through their livelihood and addressing their needs. develop policies that will address labor rights of workers in plantation, including occupational safety and health standards. And the last action plan is guarantee the means of the production and price of agriculture products to peasants. Thank you very much, Atama, and I congratulate all the organizers for making this excellent alternate movement, people's voices against UNFSS. Thank you very much.
I also join you, Wali, in thanking you and our speakers on the 4 pillars of transformation, as well as all speakers from the action planning reports, from the thematics as well. We are here coming almost at the end, and the end is always the best part. We are at Speak Out for Just, Equitable, Healthy, and Sustainable Food Systems, here at the closing plenary of a 3-day-long and a whole year's action events for the Global People Summit on Food System. It's been really a big pleasure for me to be your MC and your host this evening. And thank you very much for bearing with us. And congratulations to each and every one of us, including our comrades in Jakarta who has been freed. Truly, long live international solidarity. As my conclusion here, I have the great pleasure of introducing our next speaker, who will be doing the presentation and adoption of our GPS declaration. Such a pleasure to introduce from International League of People's Struggle, Mr. Malcolm Guy.
Thank you very much, Atama. And thanks to you for your excellent work as moderator today, may I add. So I send warm greetings to all from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I and the International League of People's Struggle, with its over 400 member organizations, are very honored to be part of this historic Global People's Summit. I'd like to congratulate all those involved in the writing of the excellent and detailed declaration I am about to read. And I'll be reading it quickly, so I apologize in advance to our excellent interpreters. I start. This is the declaration of the Global People's Summit. End corporate monopoly control. Fight for people's rights to just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. We are organizations of smallholder farmers, landless peasants, agricultural workers, fisher folk, pastoralists, plantation workers, groups representing indigenous peoples, local communities, youth, women, urban poor, and consumers, and advocates of food sovereignty, agroecology, and genuine agrarian reform and rural development. We represent the global regions of Asia and the Pacific, Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, Europe and North America. We make up the Global People's Summit for just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. In 2020, about 2.37 billion people worldwide suffered moderate or severe food insecurity. The number of food insecure people swelled to 320 million in just 1 year, equivalent to the increases in the previous 5 years combined. Further, the raging COVID-19 pandemic has devastated millions of jobs and livelihoods worldwide, including those directly involved in food production, worsening the already alarming and deteriorating state of global hunger and poverty. Worldwide, the number of people facing hunger reached about 768 million in 2020, around 118 million more than in 2019. Those include those who are likely to have experienced hunger as a result of the pandemic. We stress, however, that the COVID-19 pandemic is just one of several drivers of worsening hunger and food security insecurity. Long before the coronavirus, a pandemic of systemic and perpetual hunger was being perpetuated by big business through the globalized food economy, a system characterized by unsustainable monoculture production, environmental plunder and waste, as well as wars and conflict fueled by imperialist competition for resources, land, and markets. The worsening climate crisis, highlighted in the 2021 report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, has been pushing hundreds of millions to famine and deprivation. Like many other environmental crises, the climate crisis is deeply rooted in the inherently destructive monopoly capitalist mode of production, including in food and agriculture. Amid these multiple and interrelated crises of health, climate, environment, and economy, and their many impacts on hunger and poverty, it is indeed very urgent to radically transform the global food system. The nature of this transformation should be a subject of open and honest debate, with people's rights at the center of all discussions. But the oligopolies of agribusiness, including the agro-industrial livestock industry, agrochemicals, genetic engineering, and digital technology, in cahoots with research institutions, foundations, and token civil society groups, have dominated and dictated the discussions on food systems transformation, as can clearly be seen in the United Nations Food Systems Summit, or UNFSS. We find it unacceptable that the UNFSS is proclaiming itself as a so-called People's Summit, when the aspirations and demands of the world's people for a truly radical transformation of food systems are being met with lip service while being sidelined by the profit-seeking interests of monopoly corporations. As the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food pointed out, the UNFSS turned a blind eye to structural causes of failed food systems, ignored the worrisome corporate concentration of power, and diluted the right to participation in decision-making through the so-called multi-stakeholder approach. While supposedly encouraging the contribution of grassroots movements and civil society, the UNFSS lacked transparency and meaningful opportunities for people to participate. Those who took part in UNFSS events and meetings have become cynical, as there was no clear connection between people's input and the summit's outcomes. The path that UNFSS has charted is towards the further promotion of techno-fix solutions, including digital farming or precision agriculture, harmful technologies like agrochemicals and genetic engineering, and market-based approaches anchored in neoliberal policies of privatization, deregulation, and trade liberalization, pushed by corporations and implemented by governments, all for the narrow benefit of big business at the great expense of people and the planet, including fragile ecosystems already suffering unprecedented forest fires to make way for agro-industrial production. It is highly concerning that powerful industrial livestock agribusiness, which are among the worst emitters of GHGs and destroyers of forests, have gained space in the UNFSS, while smallholder farmers have been almost erased from the process. The UNFSS thus serves this destructive industry by greenwashing its harmful practices and giving them free passes to continue as usual with their dirty business. Meanwhile, governments and multilateral development banks continue to invest in unsustainable livestock farming especially in the global south, when the real solution is to divest from factory farming and redirect those resources towards small-scale, diverse farming, agroecological practices, and overall cleaner food systems. We say to the UNFSS and its big business patrons, not in our name. Not in our name shall you peddle unsafe GM foods on the pretext of addressing the climate crisis, when your real intention is to deepen and expand corporate monopoly control of our seeds and resources. Not in our name shall you push more toxic pesticides from the poison cartel of big agricultural companies in the guise of improving farm productivity, when these expensive inputs merely shove small food producers into the pits of debts and bankruptcy while damaging our health and environment. Not in our name shall you displace and threaten indigenous peoples and local communities and deforest their lands to make way for agro-industrial livestock farming, plantations, mining, and other so-called development projects, which are already taking a huge toll on the world's forests. Not in our name shall big tech mine, privatize, and monopolize data about our farms and crops so that corporations can consolidate their position as the command and control of food production, while making it easier for the finance oligarchs to determine which are the most profitable farmlands for their parasitic speculation. Not in our name shall governments use their levers of power to subsidize and orient food production towards exports rather than towards feeding their own citizens. Thus, we have gathered as a Global People's Summit to expose and strongly counter the devious corporate agenda of the anti-people summit that is the UNFSS. More importantly, as the Global People's Summit, we declare that through the collective vigor and resolve of our communities and movements, we shall advance with unwavering enthusiasm the people's demands for a food systems transformation that is truly built on justice, equitability, health, and sustainability. We commit to the struggle for just food systems. We believe that a just food system can only be built on the people's right to own and effectively control land, seeds, water, and other productive resources. We will continue to assert that land belongs to those who directly till and enrich the land to produce food and other needs of societies, and not to the landlords or corporations that enormously profit from its wanton exploitation. Water resources shall be accessible to all at all times to communities that rely on them for food and livelihood. We will resist all forms of land and resource grabbing and labor exploitation that massively displace farmers, indigenous peoples, workers, fishers, and other rural peoples. We demand accountability from those who plunder and destroy the environment and grossly violate the people's rights to land and resources. In building just and healthy food systems, the contributions of indigenous and local communities, including women, who play an essential role in the sustainable management of natural resources and restoration of ecosystems, must be recognized. Indigenous and genuinely sustainable local initiatives to produce food must be supported instead of the destructive and unsustainable agro-industrial food production. Recognition of indigenous peoples' right to self-determination over their ancestral land and diversified food system is critical to promote just and equitable food systems. A just food system entails that people's rights and human dignity be upheld at all times. No community, social class, or nation shall ever be deprived of access to food because of poverty, wars, or conflicts. We commit to the struggle for equitable food systems. We believe that an equitable food system can only be built on the people's right to land and livelihoods, and to decent working and living conditions for all. This means that food production must be decided by the sovereign will of the people, based on their particular circumstances, priorities, and needs. Profit motives of corporations, euphemistically called market forces, should not determine what food to produce, how to produce it, and for whom. Meanwhile, we assert that agricultural workers and all workers in the food sector must enjoy living wages, job security, maximum social protection, and other rights and benefits. And the incomes of smallholder farmers must be guaranteed through various forms of state support and protection to allow them and their families to live decently. Women farmers, who make up much of the global farming population, must be accorded the respect they have earned and their rights protected. We commit to the struggle for healthy food systems. We believe that healthy food systems can only be built on the people's right to have access at all times to nutritious and sufficient food. Food that is produced in an agroecological manner must be promoted and be made widely available and affordable to all in order to protect the health and well-being of both the food producers and consumers. We assert that food production that relies on heavy doses of poisonous agrochemicals or uses questionable technology, like genetic modification, must be halted. Corporate-controlled farms and plantations and intensive large-scale animal farming are creating conditions for the spread of killer diseases and pandemics, and must be held accountable for damaging the environment and harming public health. We commit to the struggle for sustainable food systems. We believe that sustainable food systems can only be built on the people's right to a healthy planet and environment that is also capable of adequately producing all the food needs of the world's population. Building a strong foundation for sustainability in our food systems requires food sovereignty and agroecology, for people's rights to land and resources, for decent working and living conditions, and for a nutritious diet. We assert that our farmers and other small food producers can feed the world in a manner that is mindful of our planetary boundaries by maximizing and combining their indigenous knowledge and practices with socially responsible science and technology, supported by public resources and appropriate pro-people and pro-planet government programs. Amid a worsening climate crisis, support for smallholder farm production is more urgent and necessary than ever. Unlike large-scale corporate farms that drive significant GHG emissions, smallholder farmers are motivated to practice agroecology and are more resilient to severe climatic events. Unlike industrial monocrop plantations and factory farming, small-scale farmers practice integrated farming and diverse crop production. They are the custodians of the diversity of crop species and varieties that are crucial in maintaining rich and healthy biodiversity, which are very important for global food security and indispensable for resilient food systems, in particular in the face of the growing climate crisis. We commit to the struggle for diverse local food systems. We believe that a single globalized food system imposed everywhere can never be healthy, sustainable, or equitable. Those goals can only be met by local food systems that are reflections of cultural and biological diversity and that put local needs before export. Local food systems are the key to food sovereignty, dignified land-based livelihoods, and the health and well-being of both people and the planet. We reject and oppose the globalization and corporatization of our food systems and call for the political mechanisms, regulations, subsidies, and taxes that currently favor the big, global, and techno-industrialized to be shifted so that they support sustainable, local food systems instead. We vow to work collectively to carry out the national, regional, sectoral, and thematic People's Action Plans that were produced from the workshops, public forums, and consultations organized under the Global People's Summit. These action plans represent our concrete and particular demands and campaigns along the 4 pillars of food systems transformation. 1, food sovereignty and democracy at the core of food and agricultural policies. 2, agroecology and sustainability in production, distribution, and consumption. 3, people's right to land, production, and resources. And 4, people's right to adequate, safe, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food. We are the Global People's Summit, and we are hungry for change. Join the struggle for just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. And may I add, our food systems, not corporate food systems. Farmers, not corporations, feed the world. Why are companies setting the agenda? Neoliberal food systems equals more hunger, not zero hunger. People's food sovereignty, not false solutions. End the global corporate food empire. We are all hungry for change. And I would like to add warmest solidarity greetings to our newly liberated comrades in Jakarta, Indonesia. This shows the power when we all unite together. Long live international solidarity. Vive la solidarité internationale. Viva la solidaridad internacional. Please hold up your hand, hold up your fist, everyone. Long live international solidarity. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Malcolm Guy from International League of People's Struggle, with the closing statement, the call to action, and the adoption of the declaration. There we have a strong outcome document coming from our Global People's Summit. I now hand over to our tech team and friends in Manila and wherever we are right now to type in once again, long live international solidarity, and show our solidarity and our struggles together. Thank you very much, everyone. It has been an amazing 3 hours. We never expected this to be that long, especially online. But if it wasn't for the pandemic, we would definitely be face to face, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder in the streets, marching in front of the UNFSS together with our comrades in New York. So let us raise our messages right now, and we will have a closing picture for all of us. I now hand over to our technical team in Manila. Over to you for the instructions.
Thank you so much, everyone. Long live international solidarity. Take a picture. Raise your fist. Thank you so much. We'll be taking a picture. Please then turn on your cameras. One, two, three. Thank you so much, everyone. Another one. Last picture. One, two, three. Thank you, everyone. Long live international solidarity.
Long live international
International
solidarity.
solidarity.
Vive la solidarité
Vive la
internationale.
solidarité internationale.